What is going on, everybody? Jason and Destiny are joined today by Jake Young. How are you doing today, Jake?
Hey man, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Our pleasure.
Absolutely. So, the question I like to ask, because it's funny, like how different the answers are from person to person, but what made you want to get into acting, directing, producing?
Oh man. Well, that's a wild question. Um so I guess me as, just as a person, man, that's what I always tell everyone is I was just kind of a kid that never got to grow up. Um because you kind of always have to have that factor of, having this just crazy ideology in your head that one day you're gonna do something or make a movie. When I was a kid, I used to really enjoy coming up with different things and imagining things and just creating different scenarios and different stories and I had a big imagination and I guess the older that you get, the more you just kind of more you kind of you lose that luster, but if you stick to that, there's something about that you never really grow out of. So being able to create different scenarios and different imaginative things and different just tell different stories in your head is something that I think we all still do. We all daydream a lot, and as a filmmaker and a person that makes movies, these stories is you kind of get to bring them to life. It's how can I tell the story that I'm seeing up here, through here, and let
Yeah.
other people see it. So that's kind of what got me into it. I kind of grew up, not really where it was very common. Of course, I had some people in my family that had been involved in film and stuff, but nothing that it was ever really handed down my way. So, I kind of just grew up in a small little rural area, and it never was really big. It wasn't even really accepted that much where I was at. It was always looked at as kind of strange or weird, but ultimately, if you got something that you believe in, there's no telling where fate will take you if you follow that. So, and a few years later, I ended up here. So
There you go. It all works out.
it all works out. That's right.
Well, what made you want to be involved with the project for Soul's Chapel? Like, it's such a unique movie. What was kind of your first reaction that got you to say yes to it?
Well, that's a good question. So, as I just recently finished up a movie that I've been working on called Daylight to Dark, and we dabbled in the idea of this western-esque supernatural horror type of deal, and it was about I play this western version of Van Helsing, this cowboy vampire hunter, and as we kind of tarried on, I started having ideas and stuff for a new film that would be something that was a little different. And so I was invited to this convention, which I'm invited here usually about every year. And as I was walking through the streets, it was this Old West convention. And, of course, being myself, I love horror movies. It was a horror con that was hosted in an Old West town.
How
And
cool.
as I was walking through there, I just started seeing this idea in my head. I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we could tell a story that involves. I said, number one, it would have to have some kind of really cool creature, involve an old creepy Western town, and then just have this Western-esque vibe, because everybody's walking around in their, it's like Ren Fair but Western, So everybody's walking around all dressed up, and of course I've got the signature hat and the poncho and everything, I'm wearing it around and everybody's like, oh yeah, hey, let me take a photo with you. And, as I began to do that, the ideas just started to kind of churn in my head. And I wrote a rough treatment and I sent it over to my friend Dave. Dave is, we've been working on movies together for a while. And, I sent it over to him and he's like, I think you got something here. So, I sent my treatment and he come back with a finished product. And next thing I know, man, we were making a movie. And it was just, a bunch of just really strange stuff. And as we got, crafting the ideology, we started looking a little more into things like this. And he started writing another treatment. And there's an actual place called Souls Chapel. There's a real place called Souls Chapel. It's not far from where I live. And it is full of legend and lore. It's probably one of the state's most haunted attractions. There's a lot of paranormal activity, and as they like to call themselves, ghost hunters and stuff that go out there, and
Yeah.
they'll go out and they'll go out there and set it up, and they'll do like EVPs and stuff in the graveyard and stuff. And I was like, let's kind of explore more of the lore to these stories. And as we started developing our story, it really started working into the lore. And Souls Chapel was the name of it, and I was like, man, this would just be crazy. And as I was walking through, I think I was actually on vacation, and I looked over to my wife and I told her, and I said, I think I got an idea what I'm going to call this movie. And she said, what? And I said, Souls Chapel. And she said, that's really weird because I was just thinking about that. She had just told me a story about it, and but she didn't say the name, and it was like, almost like it just kind of happened. So
Yeah.
next thing I know, we're getting stuff together and we're casting people and we're getting ready to make a movie. So
That's incredible.
yeah, it was pretty cool. And we were fortunate enough to have a lot of people get on board with this. I was very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to have such a cool cast and crew that were helped me make this thing, because without them you're just running around. I'm just an idiot with a camera. So I mean, I definitely got to hand it to my cast and my crew. But yeah, we were getting ready to film. We had everything booked out that we needed. I had a location booked, and then I think it was 3 days before we were scheduled to begin shooting. The venue calls and says, "Hey, we can't let you use the venue."
Oh no.
Yeah, so I'm like, "Oh man, where am I going to find a creepy old church in 3 days?" Because the actual place, the real Souls Chapel, it's been burned down. It's no longer standing. The grounds are still there, but the actual building's not there. So I was like, man, where in the hell am I going to find a church, an old creepy church in 3 days? And like I said, I really got to hand it to my cast and my crew and my friend Dave, because we all kind of banded together, and he and I, we ended up, we built the whole set. Everything you see in Souls Chapel, we built that in my garage. So yeah, we
Wow.
built it in, 3 days and 15 hours. We built that whole thing in a garage. So we've gotten a few mixed reviews, and people are like, it looks cool, but then again, it doesn't. But then, like, when I tell people, hey man, we made that in my garage, they're like, what? So we really just pulled one out of thin air there.
Yeah. No, that's incredible, especially like for everybody to come together and be like, "Oh, well, if we can't have one, we'll make one."
Exactly. Yeah, that's usually how the best of things usually end up going. If
Yeah.
you don't have it, you just make it. You just say, yeah, what are we gonna do? And we just do it. So but yeah, I was very fortunate to have the help that I did, and to get that crafted up, and everybody to hop in like they did.
Yeah.
I want to backtrack just a little bit because you mentioned daylight to dark, and I just looked at it and it sounds fascinating. Can you tell me more about that? Because you wrote, directed, and starred in it, right?
Did yeah. I wrote it along with the help of my friend Roland Jewett, who was actually he was the writer of a movie called An American Vampire Story in the late '90s. It starred Adam West and Carmen Electra, and this is actually it's a follow up film to it. So we kind of base off the lore
Cool.
of the original film, and we follow up with it. But yeah, I ended up, I wrote the treatment. Roland and we sat down, we worked on it a little bit, and I directed the film. And man, it was crazy. So more or less, it's about a brother and a sister. They're driving through this small town, heading to a music festival, and their car breaks down along the way. And little do they know, everybody in town's basically a vampire. So they go looking for help once they start discovering a few things, and the sister begins to slowly realize that she may have been starting to transform into a vampire. So My character who plays, my name is Jonah Van Helsing. I'm Cowboy Van Helsing. I help the kids defeat the vampires and stuff. But it was a fun flick. It was a nice little thing we got to do, and got to work with some cool people on there.
Adam
Sounds
West and
really
Carmen
cool.
Electra. That's a wild cast. I need to go back and watch that.
Yeah, so we reference a lot of that in the movie. So if you ever get a chance to watch that, I'm actually following up years later as Adam West's protege, we talked about him, kind of training me. Tuesday Night's in the movie as well, from Nightmare on Elm Street. She was in it. I got to work with her. You can watch it free now on Tubi. It's on Best to Stream. It's available on most major streaming platforms for free. So all you got to do is give it a watch if you're looking for
Yeah.
something kind of fun and kind of campy. It's a horror comedy film. If you're looking for something, that's fun and campy, I would definitely recommend maybe checking that one out too.
I love fun and campy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's man, listen, it's very campy. It was on a shoestring budget, so we just played into it. And I was like, yeah, what the hell? So it just worked, So we ended up really doing a lot with that. And I got to, like I said, I got to meet a lot of cool people and make a lot of friends that people I'm still friends with today, and still work with me on other projects. So that was pretty cool.
So I got
That's always fun.
a follow-up question. So is horror and Western your two favorite genres? Because you don't really hear a lot about people combining them into a genre together. And both of your movies that we've talked about so far have had elements of both.
Yeah, so I really enjoy Westerns, as naturally probably crafted in my bloodline. Um, as crafted in my bloodline, I really like Westerns, just just a thing of mine. And horror films are just something that I kind of stumbled upon years ago. I'm not so much even love horror movies as much as I do just suspense thrillers. I really love the idea of trying to grab an audience and keep them on the edge of their seat, trying to keep an audience on the edge of their seat. And, ultimately, what does that are psychological thrillers and horror films and things that I find have had the best market in filmmaking. And then kind of combining that Western S genre. Soul's Chapel kind of has a bit of Western steampunk vibe to it as well. So it was a little different, but that is something that I've done, and we've kind of capitalized on here is something I call like Southern horror, and that's just a little thing that we've slowly began developing here in my area where I'm at. And I think I kind of invented it, but it's not no bone tomahawk or anything, but it's definitely got its own flavor of if you like movies where you got it your horror, but at the end of the day the good guys still win, but there's still that enough to really mess with your head. This might be something for you. So
Yeah. So how would you say that Soul's Chapel kind of challenged you differently from that?
oh Lord. Well, Soul's Chapel it was a completely different film. I don't think there's hardly any comedy in it at all.
Yeah.
With
Very, very
Daylight.
serious and dark.
Yeah, it's very serious, very dark. It's based on some very dark stuff. Whereas Daylight to Dark was more, it was low budget, so you can play into those things. You can laugh at things that naturally come across. You can laugh whenever people cut up and naturally make you have joy. And if something's cheap or low budget, you can a lot of times we laugh at it as viewers. We laugh at certain things we see, but if you play into it, it just kind of works. So. But with this one, Soul's Chapel was definitely challenging because in this one, to keep the vibe the whole time, there's nothing you can really break from. You really can't delay any type of humor or anything.
Yeah.
Very very short split seconds of humor, just to break some tension every now and then. But I mean, it's definitely got its own set of rules. I think when you're making a serious movie versus a comedy. And as far as the physical challenges of it, it was a lot. A lot of those scenes where if you've seen the film, You see me, wrestling around, rolling on the floor. A lot of that was real, because and I'm, trying to direct that, and you're down on the ground. You're like, oh man, my back. I'm snapping and popping, and I'm still
Yeah.
trying to direct and stuff. So that boils down to having a really good crew, really good camera guys that you trust, that are gonna make this thing really take off. So it was really cool to be able to direct it, but it was definitely challenging. I mean, because we built that whole set, like I told you. There's a western town in it. I went hiking and stumbled on this western town, and we decided that we were going to film there. Just walking through this old abandoned, random western town right above right above this big waterfall. Not far from where I live. And I was like, you know what? Let's put that in the movie. So we just did it, and I mean, the last day of the filming, the entire set, the whole garage flooded out. I mean, we had one
Oh
of the
my
worst
goodness.
freak storms that ever happened, like in the last 12 years. We got like I swear it felt like 8 inches of snow, and then the next day it all just flooded. So I mean, it was insane. So we were walking around, on that last day of the shoot with water up to our ankles, still trying to film it and make it happen. But ultimately we did, and it came with a lot of challenges and stuff. But overall, it was still a pretty cool experience, and definitely wouldn't have traded it for anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I wondered how some of the scenes, how difficult that could have been with directing and starring in that yourself. Is there a specific scene that you're, like, the most proud of?
In that, oh man. Now you've got me, because I'm sitting here. I'm like, which one is the very best? There's a lot of them that I was really proud of the way they turned out, but overall, it's kind of hard to pick that thing apart, because I mean, there's a lot of special effects we use in this movie too, and for it to be so micro budgeted on the way that we filmed it, it's really hard to just pick one or two of them out.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
but
like parent to pick their favorite child.
yeah, yeah, it's like asking your parents to pick your favorite child, which is always the oldest. But I mean, it's always, just kind of, what do I pick apart from this film? What do I pick apart from everything that I done? And honestly, that's what I tell people. People are like, "Oh, that must have been so cool when you done that." Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, "Listen, man, I've seen this movie like 500 times. I cut the whole thing together." So I mean, by the time everybody else is seeing it, they're really getting to see the things that I first seen when I first started editing it together, and they're like, "Why aren't you more excited?" And I was like, "Listen, man, and you know how many times I've seen this thing? I've seen this movie a million times. Like for instance, when we went to the premiere, it was a lot of fun, because we premiered the film at a festival, and most of the cast was there, and this was the first time they'd ever seen the movie, and they were all just like, I look over, and they're all just their eyes are that big, and their mouths are open, they're just going nuts, and I'm just sitting over there, and they're like, "Aren't you excited?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I've seen it.
I've
I've
seen
seen
it
it.
a few ways, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah." I said I seen it before it was like even looked like this. I seen it when it was all just bits and pieces. So, but yeah, it's always a lot of fun. Getting to watch your crew and your cast and the people that were in the film, getting to see that expression on their face for the very first time. That's always something that I really enjoy. It's something I really admire. Every film I've done, every time there's a premiere, I'll kind of sit back in the audience away from everybody, and I'll just watch, and I'll slowly watch their reactions to different things. And sometimes that kind of helps you learn what you need to do and what you can take away and what a film can suffer from or what it can
Yeah.
do. Um, I mean, it's just, for instance, well, I got Brian in here, but for instance, the first, the Daylight to Dark, that's actually when we first released it, to test audiences and stuff, when I was first premiering it, the movie itself, it was about 45 minutes longer than the released version. So we ended up going back and doing some extensive edits, and man, it was so long it kind of got boring. So it was good to be able to test that with an audience. But now we've got that as the director's cut that's coming out at some point. So maybe it'll come out at some point in time. I don't really know, but it helps you learn what you need to keep and what you need to take away from a film, watching your audience be able to come to life and seeing your cast and crew see it for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always a question that I love to ask is, like, what did you learn from this project that you'll carry into future roles?
Yeah, don't do it. Listen, that's what I tell everybody. I'm working on a film now. I'm also acting and directing in, and this one's much larger caliber than any of the last ones I've done. And man, I got to tell you, it's been a challenge for sure. And this one, I've even looked at, kind of pulling myself out of certain scenes. And I told, everybody, I was like, if I had to do it over again, I would definitely just direct and not act in it the same. But, I do enjoy the acting portion of it. I really,
Yeah.
you really enjoy doing that sort of thing, especially whenever you've crafted this story and you've wrote a few things, you feel like it's going to be really hard to pull yourself out of that. And in certain instances, usually if a film's a little bit smaller, it gives me more flexibility to be able to not only direct it and make it how I want to be seen on screen, but also you be step in and be an actor as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, this film that I'm currently doing, I mean, it's a large caliber. Just for instance, the other day we were on set and somebody was asking me, they said, what is this whole shoot day? They said, it's like 8 days or something. And then I said, yeah, I said, I think so. I said, for you guys. They said, what do you mean? I said, well, it's like every movie we do, it's 8 days for you guys. It's 8 years for me. I age about 8 years per film. I said, because there's a lot going on.
That
But
happens when you wear multiple hats.
it does, yeah. A lot of people don't really get that, whenever you're doing the editing, directing, and when you're starring in it. I mean, there's just a lot going on. So, but
Right.
it's not everybody can act and direct at the same time. And to the people that do, it's a very commendable and respectable thing, for you to be able to just kind of do your own thing and make your own stuff happen. That's something I definitely commend people on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not an easy task to do both, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely not an easy task. I mean, filmmaking and I mean making things isn't for the faint of heart, anyways.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure you guys, talk to people all the time that tell you that and stuff. I mean, but it's just if you're gonna make a product, you're always gonna face some kind of something that people don't want to. They're not necessarily gonna like your project. So
Yeah.
you're always gonna have that select few, but
You can't be
it's
everybody's cup of tea.
you can't please everybody. I mean, that's what I
Mhm.
tell everybody. Watch it, don't review it if it's good. If it's not, don't be mean. I mean, you don't have to say but you can tell me what you think about it. Just you don't got to be mean about it. So, but
Right.
it's just that's a part of filmmaking, and that's a lot of it. When you start crafting stuff and putting it together, it's a work of art, and it's like construction. You're not going to make a house that everybody likes either. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's the
Yeah,
way
I
I
mean,
see it.
anytime you put, it's crazy because you'll get comments. We'll get comments in the comment section. I'll be like, "You and your mom suck," and it's like, "Well, thanks for being constructive." Like being constructive
Yeah.
negatively is fine. It's when you say stupid stuff that it's so
Right.
annoying and
Oh yeah,
frustrating.
man. Listen, I've had some of the craziest stuff said, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like what? Like that don't even make sense. You know what I mean? And I'm just sitting there. I'm like,
Mhm.
whatever. But like I said, but that's the part of entertainment. When you're in the entertainment business, that's what comes with it. But there's a lot of people that I know still like the stuff, and that's what I tell everybody. Hey, even if you don't like it, go watch it and tell me you don't, because well, I'll get a royalty check. But you know what I mean? I mean, so you
Right.
can, yeah,
I
you
get
can. That
paid
still
either
supports
way.
me either way. Yeah, I get paid either way. So
Right.
that ends up helping me in the long run, because as you know, as a filmmaker, you're not going to get rich, but it helps. Every little bit helps.
Yeah.
So yeah, even if you don't like it, just go ahead and watch it. That's what I tell people.
Right. And even if you don't, if you talk bad about it, like I'm very much the person that if somebody tells me a film's terrible, I
You
have
want
to
to check
see
it
it for
out,
myself.
right? Yeah,
I
you
have
got to
to
go
know,
check it
like,
out.
what makes it so
Absolutely.
bad?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
every
That,
time someone gives a bad review, that's typically another view.
any publicity is good publicity to an extent, and I believe that's true, because
Yeah.
there was there was like a group of Amish people or something here that were, we don't have a lot of Amish people here, but we've got like a really small select group, and apparently there were people like protesting this, saying, "Don't release Souls Chapel. It's evil. It supports the devil." And I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking like, what? Like that has nothing to do with the movie. And I'm like, whatever, man. But that people were putting signs in their yard, so I was like, don't go watch it. So maybe somebody will go watch it just because they seen the sign in somebody's yard. Like,
Oh, I
don't
would
leave
have.
Souls Chapel. I was like, well, hey, you know, it works for me. So
100% people are going to go see it in spite of that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
fair.
I was like, actually, can I put some of these in your yard? Like, I'll put more out there for you.
I'll make you more,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
I'll
no.
take
If I was
pictures of them
driving,
saying, don't watch this film. Yeah, so
I was driving through a town and saw a bunch of houses and they had signs that told me, "Don't go watch this film." The first thing I'm doing is
you're gonna
looking up
look
where
it
I
up
can
at
watch that
least,
film.
right? You're at
I'm gonna be
least
like,
gonna look it
what
up.
is this about? Where can I
What
watch
is
it? And
this?
that's what I would have done
Yeah,
because, like,
and you know, hey, I've done
that
that and
piques
stumbled and
people's
stuff.
interest.
Right? Yeah. I mean, and people, you know, that's a part of it. You know, you gotta love your haters, man. Let them work
Yep,
for you.
exactly, exactly.
Well, Jake, before we let you go, I have one last question, and then Destiny, I'll let you go. What is the thing that you geek out about, or that you are really into?
What is the thing I geek out about? So, so the things I kind of geek out about is being an actor myself. It's the stuff I really enjoy, but whenever I see certain people that I've always wanted to work with, or I grew up watching them on TV, and I get to meet them for the first time, my wife will tell you, you know, we've been to conventions where I've been a guest, and I've been a guest with some of these other people, and you know, they'll be over there like, you know, I'll just be sitting next to somebody, and you know, I'm sitting there with my little table with my pen and stuff, and you know, last year I was at a con, and here comes Henry Thomas walking by, and I'm like, oh my god, that's Henry Thomas, that's the kid from E.T. I'm just like, everyone's like, dude, yeah, we know, and he just walks by, he's like, sup, and I'm like, oh my god, he's talking to me, so I was just like, I'm like freaking out. But getting to meet people like that, and like the first time I ever met Chevy Chase, I mean, it was so funny because I think I said something from one of his movies, one of the National Lampoons or something. You know, he's wheeling around in a wheelchair, and I was hoping that I would get to fall in his lap and be like, "It's a hell of a drug, dear," or something like that. You know, it was just it's always something like that. But getting to meet, you know, people that I watched on TV as a kid, you know, I think that's a real treat, and I kind of geek out over that. And you know, honestly, it's kind of funny because I've worked with a lot of people that I grew up watching and stuff, but you know, you never take that for granted because, you know, it's just it's one of those things that you know you I can never say that I'm on the same level or I'm above anybody. So I still get excited whenever I get to meet, you know, people that I've seen, or you know, people that have been in stuff that I've watched, or you know, stuff I got to watch growing up. For instance, when I met Kevin Sorbo, I was the same way. You know, we ran in the same circle for a while, but see, when I was a kid, I remember watching Hercules and stuff on TV, and then when I meet him, I'm like, oh my god, everybody's laughing at me. So you know, like I said, it's just it's all about never losing that kid factor to you. So I think that's got a lot to do with staying creative.
I love that. Love that very much. What advice would you give to people who want to get into filmmaking? Um, you know, from your perspective of having done this for a little while now.
Think twice. I'm totally kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking.
A little bit.
Listen, listen. That's what I would tell people is, you know, it's not an easy task. It's not easy, and there's going to be a lot of bumps along the way. But you know, that was one thing I always said. If you have the ability to make a movie, make it, because you know that's how I started. Was I remember I'd invite the neighborhood kids over, and I'd be like, hey, listen, I'll pay you in slices of pizza if you'll come over here and do this one little thing while I set this camera up. And you know, it was silly. I was making backyard movies, as I would call them. I would watch movies, and I would go out there and have my friends come over and reenact them. And you know, everybody just thought it was silly, thought it was fun. But you know, to me, that was what sort of crafted that dream. So that's to anybody. If you have the ability to make a movie and you can make it, and never let budget limit your creativity. Because listen, I'm telling you, there's so much you can do that is supposed to, they're like, oh, you got to have all this budget to do this. Listen, man, I just made a movie in my garage, and you know, I'm still, you know, just finding ways to get around stuff, and the rest will come as you slowly do it. But if you have the ability to make a film and you got that sort of, you know, that dream that you want to keep doing it, you know, I think everybody owes it to themselves to at least give it a shot. And even if you don't like it, well, then you'll find out, maybe this ain't for me, but you owe it to yourself to kind of give it a shot and, just roll with it. And, if you got the ability to make a film or you can make something or you can be creative, do it. I mean, because, the world's full of people that says you can't do it. So sometimes you gotta say, what the hell? Why not? Why can't just try it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, Jake, where can people find you online to stay updated with your projects?
Yeah, so people can find me. You can search me on Instagram or Facebook. Instagram and most of my other socials, it's at Jake C. Young _official. You can find me on Facebook, same, just my name. You can Google me, Jake C. Young or Jake Eastwood. I'll pop up. You can see me on IMDb. You can see everything I have from MTS Pictures, which is my production company. You can find that on Facebook or YouTube or most any of the socials. But if you just Google my name, most of the time everything I have will pop up. And yeah, definitely go on there, click like, follow, share, subscribe, because every little bit helps. And I really enjoy connecting and interacting and meeting new folks and meeting new people that kind of have a similar interest.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
Everybody
Thank you guys for
go
having me.
check out his socials, check out Soul's Chapel. You'll enjoy it.
Well, at least they're giving it a positive review. So I gotta ask before we go, what did you guys think of the film?
It was
I enjoyed it.
I things that like kind of you gotta pay attention. You gotta like catch the little things too.
Yeah.
So I really like the dark things that like really mess with your head a little bit.
Yeah, cool. That's so cool. I'm so glad you guys got a chance to watch it. Even if you don't like it, I'm still glad you watched it. I mean, definitely, I'm glad you watched it. I'm glad you got to see it, and I appreciate you so much for having me on. And I'm always
Absolutely.
down to come on a podcast and talk with some cool folks.
Well,
anytime. You
hey,
just let us know.
You let us know when this
Absolutely.
next project wraps. We'll get you back on.
Sweet. I appreciate that so much. Thank you guys. I
Absolutely.
really appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll chat soon. Bye.
All right. Thank you.